Hello, future teachers. Welcome back to the Tower Languages TKT Academy. I'm glad you're here and ready to continue improving your teaching skills. In today's lesson, we're going to explore one of the key topics from Cambridge TKT Module 2, Unit 22, Choosing Assessment Activities. By the end of this lesson, you'll understand the essential concepts, see practical classroom examples, become a more confident English teacher, and be better prepared for the TKT exam. So, let's get started. Before we begin, remember that today's topic is one of the absolute foundations of effective lesson planning. This builds directly on what we covered in Units 20 and 21, and it's essential because understanding how to actually gather data on your learners is what drives your entire teaching forward. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our agenda for today. We'll welcome you to Unit 22, compare formal and informal assessment, open up the assessment toolkit, navigate the trade-offs, apply the theory in class, and then wrap up with a quick review. Section 2, Formal versus Informal Assessment. You see, choosing an assessment activity always starts with defining your core purpose. Assessment isn't just about handing out a test, it's a powerful pedagogical data engine. Imagine a fork in the road. On one side, we've got formal assessment. Think of these as your standardized, timed milestones. On the other side, there's informal assessment. This is that continuous day-to-day observation that you just naturally weave into ordinary classroom tasks. So what's the real difference? It all boils down to purpose. Formal assessment is entirely about measuring overall achievement, assigning those official grades or deciding if a student is actually ready to advance. Informal assessment, on the other hand, is like your daily compass. It gives you immediate, actionable feedback so you can tweak future lessons and spot any learning gaps right away, completely without the heavy pressure of an official grade. Section 3, the assessment toolkit. Now that we know our purpose, let's open up that toolkit and look at the actual tasks you can use to generate this vital data. Let's explore the spectrum of formal assessment tools you have at your disposal. On one end, we have objective, single-focus tasks. These are super reliable and really easy to mark, though, to be honest, they mostly measure mechanical knowledge about a language. But as we move across the spectrum to the other side, we get into subjective, extended tasks. Sure, these require dedicated rubrics to grade, but they beautifully reflect authentic, real-world language use. Let's zoom in on that first side, the discrete point toolkit. These are your objective tools. Take gap fills, for instance. They're absolutely perfect for testing specific targets. Like if you just taught a lesson on prepositions, a quick gap fill checks that structural understanding instantly. True-false activities are another great one here. Oh, and here's a pro tip. Adding a don't know option is a total game changer. It prevents pure guessing and actually forces your students to process the text much more deeply. Now, shifting gears to the other side, we have the Authentic Production Toolkit. These are your subjective tasks. Think oral interviews or information gap activities. Imagine a scenario where student A has a train schedule, but it's missing some times, and student B has those exact times. They literally have to communicate to get that missing data from each other. It drives genuine spoken interaction and perfectly simulates real-world communication. Section 4, Navigating the Trade-offs. Now, what's really interesting about this next concept is that choosing an activity is a balancing act teachers face every single day. When we map these out, we run into a direct trade-off. We've got practicality on one axis, basically how easy it is to mark, and authenticity on the other, how close it is to real life. Look at oral interviews and information gaps. They are highly authentic, but man, they are tough to mark. They require intense concentration to listen, interact, and grade all at the same time. Contrast that with multiple choice questions. Super fast to grade, right? But they encourage guessing and completely isolate mechanical structures over communicative intent. It's always a trade-off. And we also have to navigate the time horizon. It helps to think of a formal one-off test like a photograph. It perfectly captures your student's performance at one isolated moment, but it totally misses the broader context. Compare that to a film, which is like longitudinal assessment. It's a motion picture, continuously capturing language growth and evolving competence over a designated period. To capture that film, we rely on portfolios, which span across 5 key dimensions: integrated, inclusive, informative, developmental, and reflective. But as you can probably guess, there's a massive challenge here. Portfolios generate a very heavy subjective marking workload for you. So what's the solution? Continuous assessment. By grading incremental pieces throughout the term, you distribute your workload and, crucially, maintain your objectivity. Section 5, Applying Theory in Class. And this brilliantly illustrates how we move from academic theory to the actual realities of your physical classroom. So, here are 4 golden rules for applying this theory. Rule number 1, align with age groups. A formal single-focus test is just going to intimidate young learners, so rely on informal, physical tasks or language games for them instead. 2, balance the mix. Never, ever rely on just one task type. 3, standardize your subjective grading. Always use explicit rubrics that cover both mechanics and fluency. And finally, Rule 4, maintain learner transparency. If you're informally assessing your students, let them know. Otherwise, your feedback feels surprising rather than meaningful. Before we wrap up this section, let's briefly review some essential terminology. Mastering these specific terms is absolutely vital for passing the TKT exam. Make sure you understand terms like assessment criteria, which are the explicit guidelines we use to judge those subjective tasks, and turn-taking, which is the communicative skill of managing exactly when to speak and when to listen. Section 6, Review and Next Steps. Let's wrap up our module. Here are your key takeaways. Balance practicality with authenticity. Match task types to your core purpose. Use continuous assessment for longitudinal growth. Think about the last lesson you taught. How could today's topic improve your lesson planning? Congratulations! You have just completed another important TKT lesson. Remember that passing the TKT exam is not about memorizing definitions. It's about understanding how teaching works in real classrooms and becoming a better English teacher. Now it's time to put today's lesson into practice. Visit cursos.Tower Languages and continue your learning with resources designed especially for English teachers. There you'll find lesson summaries, downloadable teaching resources, exam-style practice, and more. The link is in the description below. In the next lesson, we will take a close look at selection and use of resources in Unit 23. Remember, great teachers are made one lesson at a time. See you in the next lesson.